Okay, so we are going to be talking about zeros. And there's two ways to define what a zero is. If we are looking at a graph, so if we're looking graphically, the zeros are the points at which the graph crosses, or what we call intersects, the x-axis. If we're looking algebraically, this is the point or the points at which f of x, and which we call y, f of x equals 0. So another word for f of x is y. So if y equals 0. So a lot of times you'll hear us say, well, what is the solution to this problem? We could say solution, we could say 0, we could say roots, we could also call them x-intercepts. Basically, when we're saying get x by itself, when we're solving, we're finding the zeros. So let's look at a graph, and we need to identify the zeros. So first things first is we need to figure out where the graph is crossing the x-axis. So just a refresher, our x-axis is this horizontal axis. And we need to figure out where this graph, where this function, in this case, this yellow line, this yellow graph is crossing the x-axis. So it is crossing right here. So the solution, the 0, the root for number 1 is x equals, and this location is 2 on the x-axis. So just remember, if we're looking at a number line, this was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then going the opposite direction, -1, -2, -3, -4. So we're looking all along the x-axis. All right, let's look at number 2. So here, our function, this is our function, and it is crossing the x-axis at 2 separate spots, 2 separate solutions at 2 zeros. So our first 0 is over here, and we would call that x equals, and then there's 2 of them, so that one is -2. So remember, this is 0, -1, and then -2. And the other solution is at +1. All right, let's look at number 3. So looking across at my x-axis, where is the function crossing? The 0, the solution, the root is right here. And that is at, let's see, so this is 0, this is 1, 2, 3. So this solution, this 0, is at y equals 3. All right, let's look at number 4. Here I see 2 zeros. I see 2 solutions. Here's a solution, And here's a solution. So remember, another word for solution is zeros. So looking here, the zeros for this graph are at x equals, and this is +1, so x equals +1, and x equals, so -1, -2, -3, this is at -4. All right, let's look at number 5. Here, this graph has 2 zeros, 2 places where the graph crosses the x-axis. So we see it here at x equals, and then this is -1. And the second is over here where it's x equals, let's count. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X equals 5. So here has 2 solutions. 2 solutions, 2 roots, 2 zeros. All right, let's look at number 6. How many solutions, how many zeros do you see here? I see 1, 2, 3. There are 3 zeros. X equals, so the first one's at 0. We know that. The next one is, so let's count, -1, -2, -3, -4. So this one's at -5. And then we have +1, +2, +3. Now, these are the 3 solutions, but we need to write them in the correct order from smallest to biggest. So we're going to write it as x equals, and the smallest number here is actually -5. So we're going to put that one first. So we're going to do -5, 0, and then 3. So this is my zeros. Another way that we can find the zeros and identify the zeros is solving it algebraically. There are 2 steps to this. Step 1 is we need to set the function equal to 0. So set the function equal to 0. And then once we set the function equal to 0, we are going to then, step 2, solve for x. So let's look at number 7. So when I say set the function, we are going to take this f of x here, and we are going to replace it with 0 equals, and then we're just going to bring down everything else. And now, step 2 is to solve. We'll add 8 to both sides. I am left with, so 0 plus 8 is 8, equals 4x. Divide by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. The 4's cancel, so 2 equals x. We could also write this as x equals 2. So here our 0 is x equals 2. All right, let's look at number 8. So we are going to replace f of x with 0. So we'll have it as 0 equals 2x plus 2. And now we'll solve and get x by itself. So subtract 2 to both sides. 0 minus 2 is negative 2 equals 2x. Divide by 2. I'm left with negative 1 equals x. Number 9, replace f of x. We're going to replace this with 0 equals negative x plus 7. Subtract 7 to both sides. 0 minus 7 is negative 7 equals negative x. So really this is a negative 1x. And to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. Negative 7 divided by negative 1 is 7 equals x. All right, number 10. We need to replace f of x with 0. So we'll take out f of x and we'll write this as 0 equals, bring everything else down, 2/3 x minus 6. To get x by itself, we're going to add 6 to both sides. I'm left 0 plus 6 is 6 equals 2/3 x. So 2/3 is hooked to x and they are by multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we could do this in 2 different ways. So let me write this over here. You could solve this by dividing both sides by 2/3. And that would cancel and you'd be left with x equals 9. Or, because it's a fraction, you could multiply it by its reciprocal. And what you do to one side, you need to do to the other. So 3/2 times 6 equals 9 equals x. So you get the same solution. So you can either divide by the fraction or multiply by its reciprocal. Okay, and then the third way that we can find zeros is by using the graphing calculator. So the steps are here over to the left. You're going to first hit y equals. So for number 13, this is for number 13. So if you're looking at your graphing calculator, y equals is right here. So this is where our y equals is. Okay, so you're going to first start by hitting y equals. And then you're going to type in your equations. So everything from the equal sign over. So x squared minus 16. And then you will hit graph, which is right next to it. And if you look, here is our graph. So the zeros are where the x intercepts are located. So where the graph crosses the x-axis. So here you had 2 solutions. Let's scroll through this again. Here there were 2 solutions. We had a solution here, and that one was at x equals -4. And then our second solution is here, and that one is x equals +4. So in this one there are 2 solutions. Okay, and then let's look at number 14. So when we are graphing, we are going to put this entire part, so everything past the equal sign, into our y equals. So you're going to hit y equals, which is up in the top left corner. You type in 5x squared good. And then we hit graph and we find our two solutions. So here we have two solutions. We have let's see if we can pause here. We have two solutions. We have one here, which that is at x equals -3. And then one here, and that is x equals 2. So there are two solutions to this graph. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how to use your graphing calculator, because your graphing calculator, you're not able to use your fingers to be able to view the zeros. So first things first is just a reminder, when we are typing in zeros into our graphing calculator, we are typing in the part that's after the equal sign, and you're going to type it in exactly as is. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to y equals. If there's something in there, you need to clear it out. And clear is right there. So you're going to type in -x squared minus 2x plus 24. And then we're going to hit graph. And then once we hit graph, we can see that we have the x's. The zeros are here and here, okay? But we need to find that. So to do that, you're going to hit second trace. Then go down to number 2 to hit 0, and then we're going to have to move our cursor left and right. So you're going to have to go left of the x-axis. So here, left bound is below down here. So you'll hit left bound and then hit enter. And then it'll ask for right bound, and you'll move your cursor up here for right bound. And then it'll tell you to guess, and then you'll hit enter. And here our first 0 is x equals -6. But we still have to find the other one. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to hit second trace, number 2, which is 0. Move our cursor left and right bound. And in this case, the left bound is up here. So we're going to try to move our cursor all the way to the right, so we can see that little blinking cursor that's a little bit above the line this time, because that's the left bound. So there it is. And then hit enter. And then we're going to move our cursor to the right to move it down a little bit to right bound. And then enter again for guess. And this one, it says our other 0 is x equals 4. So here are our two zeros. So if you need that in the notes, remember, we do a few things. The first thing that we do is we hit y equals. We then hit graph, which graph is up here. Then you'll hit second trace. So second is here, and then trace is up here. You'll hit the number 2, which says 0 next to it. And then after that, you're going to need to move your cursor left and right, so it's left and right of the x-axis. Okay, let's move on to number 16. So just a refresher, when we're using our graphing calculator, our steps are, first, we need to go to y equals. The second step is we then need to hit second trace. The third step is to go to number 2 and look for the 0. And then the fourth is moving your cursor left and right. Now you can, after step 1, you can right here, you can hit graph to see what your graph looks like first. You don't have to though. All right, so let's go ahead and let's make sure that we type in our function into the graphing calculator. So let's go to our graphing calculator. Let's clear this out by here, by hitting second mode, go to y equals and hit the clear button to clear out the old equation. Let's type in x squared plus 7x minus 8 and hit graph. Then after we hit graph, we'll go to view our zeros, we'll hit second trace, number 2, which is a 0, and we'll move our cursor left and right bounds. We're gonna scroll all the way to the left. I've decided to choose this 0 here on the left-hand side, so I'm hitting the cursor left all the way until that flashing cursor gets over there. And to move left bound, we're gonna have to move it somewhere up here. And then to move right bound, we're gonna have to go somewhere below. Hit enter, enter again. And this first one, our 0 equals, and it tells us right there is -8. All right, so we need to find the other 0 now. So we need to go to the other one, and I'm gonna move my cursor to the right because I wanna move it all the way over to this right-hand side because that's where my other 0 is located. And I'm gonna have to this time just stay below and hit enter, and then I'll have to hit right to go above for right bound. And this time it says enter again. It says that my 0 is x equals 1. So those are my 2 zeros, my 2 solutions, my 2 x-intercepts. All right, let's move to number 17, and we are going to go to our graphing calculator and type in our function. Just a reminder, we need to type in just the part after the equal sign. So go to your graphing calculator, hit second mode to quit out of your graph, go back up to y equals, and let's type in our equation. So clear the old one out. Let's type in x squared minus 3x minus 28. Okay, and we're gonna hit graph. So we gotta find our zeros now. So second trace, number 2, and we are going to move our cursor over to one of the zeros. It doesn't matter which one you do. Now, yep, I'm going to go to the left and then cursor over to the right, enter, enter again, and the first 0 is x equals -4. So let's find the other 0, second trace, move my cursor to the other side, keep going, keep going. We gotta keep moving. There it is. So we're gonna go to the left, which in this case is down. So if you can see, it's not really doing anything. So I'm just gonna hit back and go second trace, which is okay because it just kind of stopped for a second. Number 2 for the zeros. My left bound, I'm gonna hit enter. Right bound, cursor up so I can go to the right of the line. Good, enter again. And this time it says that my 0 is x equals +7. So there's my 2 solutions. Okay, and you're gonna finish up. You're gonna do number 18, number 19, number 20, and 21. So, and we'll do 22. The biggest thing here is that if you notice, if this one says x to the 3rd power, when you're typing that in your calculator, you're going to do x and then caret 3.